welcome back! I'm the Book Guy, and today we're discussing the fantasy book The Will of the Many, book 1 of the Hierarchy trilogy. Now, there's only one book written in this trilogy so far, and the second book is still another 6 to 12 months away. But it's so freaking good, we're gonna do a whole video on one book. So how good are we talking? Put it this way. Last year, I was in a collaboration of booktubers on Matt's Fantasy Book Reviews. The video was the best sci-fi fantasy book of 2023, as voted on by 73 YouTubers, so it was a pretty big collaboration. Out of 73 YouTubers, 2 books were tied in first place with 8 votes each. One was Lightbringer from the Red Rising series, you know, an established famous series already, and the other one was The Will of the Many by James Islington. Yeah, it's that good. This book has intricate plot work, masterful world building, and super cool magic, like we have come to expect from James's work. This book also improves on a lot of the weaknesses of the earlier Licanius trilogy, and sees stronger character work and romance plot lines that aren't as rushed or feel more natural. This is peak fantasy right here. So let me tell you why it's worth reading. There was a great cataclysm some 300 years ago where most of humanity was destroyed. From the ashes of this apocalypse rose the Hierarchy. The Hierarchy is technically called the Khitanan Republic, but no one calls it that. They call it Hierarchy after the system they use to control magic. In the Hierarchy, every person cedes a little bit of their mental and physical power to the class above them. They use devices made before the Cataclysm to siphon their power away. The Hierarchy system chooses who holds all of that power, and all of society is structured into pyramids that funnel that power to the top. Those at the top levels are capable of incredible magic. Those at the lower levels are tired and mentally fatigued all the time. In this world, we meet Viz, a young man who works in a prison, where the prisoners are literally strapped into devices that suck away all of their strength. Viz meets a powerful lord, Alkizor, who is investigating the death of his brother and there to interrogate some prisoners. When Viz's insight helps Alkizor, he decides to adopt him. I know, random, but you see, Alkizor needs a spy. There are 3 main branches in the hierarchy: military, governance, and religion. These are the greatest pyramids of power. Alkizor is in the military, and he thinks his brother was killed by one of the other factions in a bid for power. So he needs a son to go to magic school, where all the rich and powerful children go to find out the truth. Viz isn't naive. He knows this isn't some lottery win so he can go up to the higher class. He knows he's been chosen because he's disposable. But he doesn't care. He is going to use this opportunity for his own goals. Because Viz hates the Hierarchy. He was from one of those countries that they conquered, and he would like nothing more than to bring the entire system crumbling down. In most fantasy worlds, you will get multiple countries, races, and cultures, and we get to explore how they all interact with each other. In this book, we really just have the one people and the one culture. But that's because the Hierarchy has literally conquered everyone else. And if that sounds a little terrifying, yeah, it's meant to be. Hierarchy society is extremely well organized. Everyone has a role to fill. Everyone has to cede power to their betters, and only a small fraction of a faction get to enjoy the benefits of the society. If you refuse to play your part, you're put into prison, where instead of ceding some of your power, you cede all of it.
That just sounds like slavery with extra steps!
But if that sounds really bad, just remember, the Hierarchy produces wonders. They have helped humanity survive, recover, and thrive in the wake of the Cataclysm. Their methods are brutal, but they work. They have built massive cities from the ground up, invented new technologies, and done all they can to ensure humanity's survival. So because of this, a lot of people are willing to accept the Hierarchy and play their part. Even those at the bottom of society have a begrudging respect for the Hierarchy and dream of advancing through the ranks to a better life. You may have also noticed this world is inspired by Roman mythology, hence the neoclassical architecture on the cover, the Latin-based names for people and places, and the Roman numerals for all the mathematics. Hence why I'm wearing my Roman shirt, which I bought in a tourist store in Rome, and then my cat scratched holes in it, the little devil. Now, at first I thought the whole Roman mythology thing was just an aesthetic choice. I mean, how often do you think of the Roman Empire? But it's actually relevant to real-world history. The hierarchy mirrors how ancient Rome was so focused on expansion that once it kind of grew to its maximum size, it went stale and collapsed in on itself. The hierarchy has reached a point much like Alexander the Great, when he beheld his dominion and wept, for there were no worlds left to conquer. So what do the people in this world do with all that power that's ceded to them? Well, it largely works on imbuing something with strength. So someone with power can use the physical power and mental strength they get from others to get stronger in a fight. Now, there are limits. If you have 10 people ceding power to you, you don't become 10 times as stronger, okay? Because you don't get 100% of each person's strength. So you might become more like 2 or 3 times stronger, still enough to win a fight pretty comfortably. Also, you have greater mental power. You can think faster. Now again, that doesn't make you more intelligent or give you more knowledge, but you can plan out a fight with more strategy. You can also imbue objects, so you can fill a sword with will in order to make it cut further, or you can fill a shield with magic to stop a bigger blow. This goes to a whole new level when the stronger magic wielders start imbuing machines to fly or build megastructures. There are ranks you can achieve within this hierarchy structure, and your power and abilities depend on how many people are ceding their power to you. The more people support you, the higher tier of abilities you can unlock. For example, Viz's adoptive father, Alkizor, is a quintus of the 5th level. We don't even know what the people at the top levels are truly capable of. This magic system actually reminds me a lot of Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson for 2 reasons. One, the hierarchy takes magic from people and uses it to imbue others with power. That's very similar to Warbreaker in taking breaths from people and using it to awaken objects. Though to be clear, I do think the systems are different enough to be original, don't worry. But the second reason is that in both books, the magic system is not actually about the magic. It's about the society that forms around it. That's what the story is actually about. We see a relatively small amount of magic in this book overall. It's not like Licanius, where magic is constantly explored in great detail. This book is more about exploring the systems that uphold that magic system. Things like classism, economy, religion, and humanity's fear of another apocalypse, and how fear makes humans susceptible to hostile takeover. But we'll come back to that. The point is, I like that this fantasy book is not just about magic, and much more about humanity, because ultimately that's what good stories are always about, the people. Alright, let me highlight the big 3 plot lines so you can see if you're interested in this story. First plot line is Alkizor's missing brother, and the whole reason Viz gets adopted into his family. This is a mystery-heavy plot line that's all about exploring the branches of leadership in the hierarchy and the aristocratic families that rule, and which of them is making a play for power. This plotline also includes our favorite fantasy trope of all time, the magic school. This is where we also see most of the world building and the magic system exploration. The second plotline is the rebellion. There's a rebel group known as the Anguis, who want to bring down the hierarchy.
That's good.
Through any means necessary.
That's bad.
This is not a Star Wars situation, people, where the Empire is bad and the rebels are good. No, this rebellion uses guerrilla warfare, acts of sabotage, and terrorism to cause mass destruction. See, the Anguis believe that every citizen is fair game. Every member of the hierarchy is ceding power to their rulers, so any person killed means a weaker target. After all, it's the citizens' own fault for being complacent and complicit in the hierarchy's war crimes and acts of genocide. Sitting on the fence means you side with the bad guys, so the rebels have no qualms about mass civilian casualties. The third plotline is Viz's backstory. And I'll be keeping this one extra secret. All we know at the start is that Viz came from one of those countries that the hierarchy conquered, and that he hates them with every fibre of his being. But the story of how and why is fascinating, and a real highlight of the book. Also, I love how this plotline is told. You see, often we get backstories in the form of a flashback sequence.
Seems like only yesterday.
Or the character straight up tells their story to someone else, so it's very clear and structured. But in this case, the backstory comes out in much more clever ways, and that's all I'll say. One note I want to make here, pretty much all of these plot lines are unresolved at the end of book 1, and I feel like that's important to know. So this is not an episodic trilogy where each book is standalone and wraps up at the end. This is much more like Licanius, where it is all one complex puzzle that will fit together by the end. So a lot of the mysteries are unsolved, character arcs have progressed a little bit but still have more to go. In fact, it's not like Star Wars, where the first one wraps it up fairly well. It's much more like the Lord of the Rings trilogy, where the first one is clearly setting up the next step in the journey. So I am very excited to see where this trilogy goes. So you may recall the biggest criticism of James Islington's earlier work is that his character writing is weak, though I have defended that to a certain extent in the past. Well, character writing has improved a ton here. To an extent. So I want to manage your expectations here. Personally, I grade the character writing in Licanius as a C. So it's not a failure, but it's not particularly great. It's kind of mid. I would grade these characters as a B. So clearly better, but it hasn't suddenly and magically jumped all the way up to A+ character writing. Okay? They're still pretty good. Now let's look at 3 main characters. Viz is the point of view protagonist who narrates the whole story in first person mode. This guy is a fascinating character because his entire life is an act. He pretends to fit into the hierarchy. In reality, he hates it. So this guy keeps all of his feelings locked up, and we rarely see the blinding rage he holds within. He is a great character because we only ever get glimpses of the real him, but they're done well enough that we actually really sympathize with him and get a deep sense of who he really is. Alkizor Telemas. This rich guy is powerful, friendly, and charming. Most people like him almost instantly, yet over time we start seeing a certain ruthlessness. Remember, this guy climbed the hierarchy ladder and succeeded for good reason. He's also playing his cards very close to his chest, and he seems like he has a few secrets of his own. Sedocia. She is a member of the Anguis, the rebels, and she is very interested in recruiting Viz. Sedocia is a dangerous radical and freedom fighter. We are not sure if she can be trusted. Is she fighting to save the world, or does she just have delusions of grandeur? Personally, I am not at all certain of her grasp on reality, and that makes her a fascinating read. She's a wonderful chaotic neutral, and every story needs a chaotic neutral. One note here, I mentioned that the romance was a little bit weaker in Licanius because it was very brief and it didn't quite feel natural. Well, there is romance here in this series, but it is much better. I felt like the characters actually had the time and the reasons to start to like each other. That plotline grew a lot more naturally. It's still the tiniest plotline of the whole series, so don't worry if you're not into that.
Is this a kissing book?
Alright, let's get to the heavy topic. There's something I'm realizing the more I read, write, and make YouTube videos like this one. I think the best stories are always about real issues. Now, I know that's a dicey question and not everyone agrees on. I mean, I see a lot of those keep politics out of Star Wars posts all the time. But I'm not really talking about politics. I think stories need to be about human nature and life itself. Stories don't really exist in a perfect bubble of entertainment outside of reality. They need to mean something in order for us to care about them. For example,
Folk in those stories had lots of chances of turning back, only they didn't. But there's some good in this world, Mr. Fertile. And it's worth fighting for.
stories that mean something have a greater impact on us, and they help us enjoy the story more because we form a deeper connection. So the big theme and the big issue that Hierarchy presents is, how do we fight evil. I would argue that the hierarchy is largely based on fascism. It's quite similar to the bad guys in the Red Rising series who are also fascists, and I think it's curious that the YouTubers voted on those two books as the best books of the year, and they both have fascist bad guys. Was that because of coincidence or relevance?
Coincidence? I think not!
Remember, fascist systems will always try to mobilize the population and get us involved, usually by creating an enemy or a cause to fight for. Everyone is then organized into the structure to keep them in line. And because of this, fascist countries need to always be expanding. They must keep conquering in order to maintain control over their own population. That's why in Starship Troopers, for example, the fascists literally go into space to create a new enemy. Well, in Hierarchy, we have reached a point where the fascists have conquered the entire known world. When there's no one left to fight, they start turning on each other. The question here is, if the fascists have already won, how do we fight back? By refusing to participate in their structure, or by mass acts of destruction, or by rising through the ranks to effect change from the top down? Or perhaps, do small acts of kindness make all the difference?
Everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay.
This series explores these questions of philosophy, morality, and humanitarianism. I also feel that these themes have only just begun to be explored in this trilogy, and there's a lot more to come. This is why The Will of the Many is such a great book. It goes beyond pure entertainment and means something real, and each of us can find encouragement in that. So there's pretty equal representation of male and female characters. I particularly like that we have men and women who are good, and men and women who are evil.
You know, monsters can be women too.
Super progressive attitude, Jake.
There's some genuinely fantastic representation of race. There's widespread discussion on colonialism and the suppression of other cultures and languages. We have a foreigner in this magic school who is struggling to learn the language, and we see how that can impact education. That's very well done. We have some disability rep. There is a person with complete loss of sight, and yes, they do use a bit of magic to compensate, Daredevil style. However, much like Licanius, there is still no LGBT rep, so there is that absence here. There is a pretty moderate level of violence. It's not everywhere or extremely graphic, but there are a few instances of gore and a few scenes of mass death and destruction. There's no horror, no sex scenes, or no swearing, so overall pretty clean on that front. Is the ending worth it? Well, the ending is very open at this stage. There's clearly 2 more books to come. Though considering how well James stuck the landing for Licanius, I am very confident this trilogy is going to finish on a high as well. James has announced on his website that book 2 is called The Strength of the Few, which is such a perfect title. I love it. He's also finished writing it and has submitted it for editing. But he did also clarify that it took a year from when he submitted the last book for editing to when it got published, so it could still be 12 months away. Now, we don't have any information on book 3 just yet, so not a title or not a time of release. Although, side note, I am really hoping book 3 will have the title The Power of One. Now, this is such a dumb, obscure joke and no one's going to get it, but both James Islington and I are Australian. Our country has never had a very big fantasy publishing space. Our industry pushes really hard on the genres of crime and drama for some reason. But it's funny, one of Australia's biggest authors is the late Bryce Courtenay, and his biggest book was called The Power of One. It was even made into a film. Well, I would love to see an Australian fantasy author step up and claim the top spot in the name of fantasy. It would be such a cool move, even though I would literally be the only one who would appreciate the significance of it. So anyway, I hope you check out this book, I really do, and I hope you support the official release of the ongoing series as the next 2 books come out. So either way, enjoy and happy reading. Thanks for watching. I've got a few quick updates for you. So I've been preparing my own 3 novels for publication in just a few months' time, and I'm very proud to announce that I have actually finished the final rewrites of book 1. So that book is edited and polished. It just needs a few rounds of proofreading and it's good to go. So yes, 1 down. I still got my work cut out to me to finish edits and rewrites on books 2 and 3 over the next few months, but we are still just on track to release all 3 books by the end of this year. And in case you missed it, my books are an urban fantasy trilogy about a secret society of immortals filled with mystery, alternate history, and magic. I really hope you'll support the Kickstarter when it launches in late September. Coming up next, I am discussing the Greenbone Saga, followed by Demon Cycle and the Aragon series. After that, I'm excited to finally be introducing a bunch of indie books, which I have been reading by tiny indie authors that you've never heard of, but deserve a ton of more love from the book community. So hopefully more content like that will be coming out around August, September. Anyway, please comment and subscribe, check out my shop and my Patreon, and I will see you next time. I hope you enjoy a good book today. Bye!